January 20th, 2017, Friday of the second week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, now our high priest has obtained so much more excellent a ministry, as he is mediator of a better covenant, enacted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, no place would have been sought for a second one. But he finds fault with them and says, Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will conclude a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers, the day I took them by the hand to lead them forth from the land of Egypt. For they did not stand by my covenant, and I ignored them, says the Lord. But this is the covenant I will establish with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord. I will put my laws in their minds, and I will write them upon their hearts. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall not teach, each one his fellow citizen and kin, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from least to greatest. For I will forgive their evil doing, and remember their sins no more. When he speaks of a new covenant, he declares the first one obsolete, and what has become obsolete and has grown old is close to disappearing. The word of the Lord.
Responsorial Psalm. The response is, Kindness and truth shall meet. Show us, O Lord, your mercy, and grant us your salvation. Near indeed is his salvation to those who fear him, glory dwelling in our land. Kindness and truth shall meet. Kindness and truth shall meet, justice and peace shall kiss. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and justice shall look down from heaven. Kindness and truth shall meet. The Lord himself will give his benefits. Our land shall yield its increase. Justice shall walk before him, and salvation along the way of his steps. Kindness and truth shall meet.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus went up the mountain and summoned those whom he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12, whom he also named apostles, that they might be with him, and he might send them forth to preach and to have authority to drive out demons. He appointed the 12, Simon, whom he named Peter, James, son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, whom he named Boanerges, that is, sons of thunder, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. The Gospel of the Lord.
January 20th, Friday of the second week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 8, verses 6 to 13. We hear again how Jesus is the mediator of a new covenant. Now, this new covenant was proclaimed by the prophets, and in fact is a rather long passage speaking about that new covenant. It would not be written upon stone, but upon people's hearts. Remember, the heart is where you think, the heart is where you make life choices, and therefore this law will be internalized. It'll no longer be external rules that we have to follow, but rather something that gives us the very meaning of our lives. At the end of the passage, we hear that the first covenant was made obsolete. Now, this was very important for the author of the letter to the Hebrews, because remember, he's writing to a Jewish Christian community that's trying to be a bit too Jewish, trying to keep the Old Testament laws. And he says that it's no longer necessary. Those were just prefigurements of the mission of Jesus, who has replaced all of those laws. Well, to proclaim that, he says that the Old Covenant is obsolete. That's something that Paul might say, but certainly not something that Matthew the evangelist would say. In fact, it's not very politically correct, because nowadays, instead of saying that the first covenant was obsolete, we say that it was partial. It was fulfilled in the second covenant, the new covenant. But it's not that Jesus came and did away with the first covenant, because God is always faithful to his promises. The Gospel is from Mark 3, 13 to 19. Jesus calls 12 of his disciples and makes them apostles. Now, the word apostle means envoy, ambassador, and these are the ones who will proclaim the message. And the list is the list that we normally see. Simon, who's called Peter. Remember the name Peter, Cephas means rock. James, the son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, who will be named Boanerges, sons of thunder. And we don't really know why they were called sons of thunder. Were they outspoken or what? We don't know. Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew. Now Bartholomew appears only in the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In the Gospel of John, Bartholomew doesn't appear, but Nathanael does. So many people believe that Bartholomew is Nathanael. Matthew, who's also called Levi. Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, James the Lesser. Thaddeus, who's also called Jude. Simon the Cananean, who in other passages is called Simon the Zealot. Remember, zealots were freedom fighters who opposed the Roman occupation. And Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. So right at the calling of Judas as an apostle, Jesus knows he's going to be betrayed by Judas. It's not something that was accidental. It's part of God's purpose. This was important to show that Jesus didn't make a mistake in calling him. This was all part of God's plan. And may God bless us.